Hi, Rebecca. I'm Nikki, and this is the first video that I've seen from you. So I was immediately intrigued when you started referencing what you do for work, which I'm not sure that I know exactly what that is, but when I heard you referencing some of the men that you work with and pedophilia, I had to hear more because I served as a parole officer for a while, and I had a caseload of sex offenders, mostly male. And so just wanted to hear some of your opinions related to the topic. I chose a different topic, and the reason I'm mentioning it is because I'm going to kind of throw in some of the bioecological aspects, just commenting on your video. But I appreciated the studies that you referenced, particularly the way the church's involvement in Poland is meaningful in terms of affecting the lives of children from a community perspective. And I did spend some time thinking about the question that you posed, and that around if we knew more, would we do more? And I'd like to believe the answer to that is yes. I think it's interesting today. A lot of people just don't get involved, and I'm not sure I understand exactly why. But when I think about the bioecological model, I'm sure you read it, but if you notice the most inner circle being the microsystem, the thing that is the direct interaction for children each day, whether it's home or school, work for older adolescents, or peer groups for younger adolescents. The idea is that there are these layers or levels of influence. And so when I think about the neighborhood or community's influence on a child's development, and even you mentioned, some of what we've learned around attachment theory, the idea that in these microsystems, if a child doesn't receive the nurturing or doesn't develop a secure attachment, and their experience is tainted by the negativity of the way that they receive parenting. And I think you even called out an example of interpersonal conflict or violence. And I do think it has a meaningful effect on children. And sometimes I wonder if when the microsystem is failing them in some way, if they go to some next layer, some next level, which can be more community or neighborhood, or the way those microsystems are interacting at that next level, to receive what they didn't get in the home. And we have to ask ourselves if that influence was what we wanted it to be, and what impact can the church have. And one of the things I cited in my video was around community outreach for the church. And you've pointed out a number of examples with Samaritan's Purse and the way that we think about the shoeboxes at Christmas. We used to go out into the community and offer Vacation Bible School to kids who don't attend church regularly or who aren't exposed to the Christian faith. And I still think that happens. I just wonder if we couldn't do more. And I don't know what that looks like, except to say that sometimes I think as individuals, I know I've been guilty of this, because I can't do everything, I do nothing. And your video challenged me to consider that I have to, in the ways in which I'm serving, sometimes we're called outside of our comfort zone. And in neighborhoods where I have the benefit of being in a wonderful neighborhood. I grew up in a small town, and even though the community was relatively poor, it's a mill town, I still felt a sense of community. And I wonder, in these large cities, and I live in a larger city now, if there's not more that I can do, thinking about how the hands and feet of Jesus, how that's applicable to extend the Christian mission out into situations where I'm trained to identify the needs, or where certain certain aspects that I could influence are happening. I think there's just an interesting fine line between something that's invasive. People get so offended these days. And I just try to pray about what God's called me to do in terms of the effect that I can have, and how to ensure that I'm being culturally sensitive to socioeconomic status, and things that, even though you couldn't necessarily look at me and know that I came from a poor household, or that my father's Native American, and there are some things that you deal with when you're different from other people. And so I think there's an interesting balance that at least my multicultural church teaches around how we can go out and evangelize and spread love and awareness and the Word of God, and a sense of community beyond, say, that neighborhood that someone lives in, to make people feel accepted and loved and seen. And so when I look at, the bioecological model, it's so true that the direct impact likely happens in the microsystem, but there's so much more beyond that, whether it's thinking about neighborhoods or even thinking about public policy and ways we can influence the ways that we support schools, or the ways that we can think about supporting drug addiction as a crisis. Because a lot of people still think that drug addiction is a choice, not a health dilemma. So all of those things went through my mind as I was looking or listening to your video, and I appreciate that you gave me an opportunity to really think beyond kind of the confines of what's normal for me in my church service, and the ways I can impact my own community. And I loved your examples of some of the things that are currently happening and how we can continue to expand on those, but also, think of new and different ways, especially as new generations, the ways that we can interact and gain attention from groups of people who have really removed themselves from the church. How do we get people back in church, back feeling like it's not a judgmental set of circumstances? And so a lot to think about, and I was appreciative to have your video as some of the ways that you presented the studies that substantiated some of the impact that can be had on communities. So thank you very much, and I wish you well in the rest of your journey in school.